Hello and good evening and welcome to another educational stream that I do on Wednesday evenings with EverRise. Hello to everyone that's tuned in. Hello Blame Kike and anyone else that's there. Today we're going to be talking about what is Web3. We hear Web3 spoken about all the time, but how many of you actually know what it is and what does it provide? Why are people so excited about it? Certainly in the space that I work in. So there's a lot to learn. I don't know everything about Web3, so I'm looking forward to going through this. And, you know, we talk about Web3, and I even heard Web5 being talked about as well by others out in the space. But yeah, today we're just going to sit down. We're going to go through Web3. We're going to go look at Whiteboard. We're going to use a video from Whiteboard Crypto, and we're going to pick it apart piece by piece and go through it and understand exactly what Web3 is and how it kind of integrates blockchain into the internet. So let's just change the screens and you should see the videos here. It's going to unmute that. Let me know if the sound's all good, guys, in the chat, and I'll start it off.
I did a quick Google search, what is Web 3.0? After a few comments on previous videos were asking me to cover it, and someone in our free Discord suggested it, but I didn't really get an answer. In fact, I got a few answers that didn't really match up. So
this is a thing, right? Like, a lot of discussion about Web3 is about just saying the word Web3. Like, even I see it and hear it in spaces and in AMAs, and like, they don't really dig deep into actually what Web3 is and what it involves. So like, I can completely get, in the first like 10 seconds of this video, I completely agree with Whiteboard here when he's saying, like, no one actually breaks it down.
So if you're watching this video, get ready to learn exactly what Web 3.0 is and what it means for cryptocurrencies. Welcome to Whiteboard Crypto, the #1 YouTube channel for crypto education, and here we explain topics of the cryptocurrency world using analogies, stories, and examples so that you can easily understand them. In this video, we are going to explain what Web 3.0 is, how cryptocurrency ideas tie into the evolution of our current internet, and what it means for you as a user. Before we officially start this video though, I just want to say that there's not some internet encyclopedia that's verified by the Institute of Global Technology that has a strict definition of what Web 3.0 is. So instead, I'm going to give you a rough definition of what the internet says Web 1.0 is, what a lot of people are saying Web 2.0 is, and then I'll explain this new phenomenon that a lot of people are calling Web 3.0. Let's start with 1.0, an initial overview of what the internet was. Between the years of 1991 and 2004, the internet was mostly a bunch of static pages.
I remember these days.
Meaning that whenever you loaded them, they just showed some stuff and that was it. Some called it read-only. There wasn't any logging in or interacting with posts or viewing analytics. Most of the early internet wasn't even profitable by ads. It was mostly just like one big Wikipedia, all hyperlinked together. Now, of course, with time, we slowly...
I guess the only thing I'll say about Web 1.0 is, like, yeah, a lot of it was read only. But I remember, like, in terms of uploading, like, the only things that I really used to upload in Web 1.0 is photos and, like, peer-to-peer file sharing. Like, that was about it. Like, back in those days. Like, the early days of Web 1, it was really basic. Really basic. How's it going? Hey TJ, how's it going, man?
Made improvements, and things like Flash and JavaScript added many new different features. However, during this time, the users of the internet were consumers. They went to the internet to consume information. Next, we have Web 2.0, from around 2004 until now. During this time, the web evolved a lot, but one of the biggest changes was the interactivity of the internet. This meant that not only did we get information from pages, but the web pages started getting information from us. As we viewed Facebook and YouTube and performed Google searches, these centralized companies started collecting data about us so that they could serve us better content, which in turn would make us stay on their websites longer. This meant more money for them, but eventually they realized they could package up all the data they had collected on us and sell it to advertisers. Web 2.0 is the age of targeted advertising and the lack of privacy for its users. Now, to be fair, we willingly gave up this privacy too for cool apps like Facebook and Twitter. In Web 2.0, me and you could both view Facebook.com and see two very different news feeds because the page depended on who was viewing it. which is an important note for a difference.
So this is like when you're ever talking about certain like things. Like, have you ever noticed, like, if you're ever talking about like a certain product, you've heard of a new skincare product or something, or maybe a camping equipment, and then the next day or the day, few days after, you're browsing the internet, and on your feed, on your timeline, you'll start noticing adverts pop up, or even on social media, like you'll see adverts popping up based on your interests and what your device has heard you talking about. It's kind of freaky, but it's all kind of entwined with the Web 2.0, where, you know, you're getting data from the internet, but you're also giving the internet your data at the same time. So this is one of the biggest shifts from the early internet into this, is where, you know, it went from being just a static read-only web page to a very much a two-way system, especially with accounts and logging in and sharing information, personal data, etc. For them actually, you know, listening into you essentially and having cookies.
In Web 3 that we'll talk about in a minute. The content on your feed is the company sorting data by information that you know that you gave them, like likes and how much you watched a video. But if you look at the ads that they show you, that is them sorting data by information you didn't know you give them. When you went to go eat tacos last night, they knew that. When you drop your kids off at school every day at 8 a.m. except for Fridays, they knew that. And there was even that one article that said machine learning started showing a guy some parenting ads because they knew he was going to be a father before he did. If it wasn't machine learning, it was probably because his girlfriend used their public IP address to do a search on her symptoms. And the machine learning algorithm probably already knew when she was ovulating anyways. Whatever the case is, how they predicted this, one centralized company controlling all of this data, whether we want to or not, is scary. If you've enjoyed this video...
Especially when you hear about how many of these companies that have collected so much data, whether it be your personal, you know, financial data from going onto websites, buying items, or your address, your phone number, you know, your social media, like your social media activity and your likes and your interests, all of this information that's being collected from you, you know, it's being used and sold on. I mean, not all of it. Obviously, financial information like bank cards and stuff aren't. You know, legally they can't do that. But in terms of like what your hobbies, interests, and your activities are, of course, that's big business. Lots of companies pay good money for personal information, for, you know, for demographics, for target audiences. And it's kind of scary because a lot of this information can be hacked. And, you know, you quite often hear of account details being dumped on the internet and certain, you know, certain forums where, you know, login information has been compromised and all your personal data is in there. And yeah, it's kind of crazy, really. It's like a double-edged sword. Yes, you are getting targeted advertising on stuff that you are interested in, but at the same time, you're also giving away a little bit of your liberties and rights in terms of your privacy.
So far,
a lot of the time without, you know.
And want to give the algorithm more data to crunch? Consider clicking that like button. It helps our channel grow and makes our team feel all warm and fuzzy inside.
Because nobody reads the terms and conditions,
Web
right?
3.0, and this is what you came to learn about.
Web 3.0.
Web 3.0 is the next evolution of the internet, probably utilizing blockchain technology and the tools of decentralization. In Web 2.0, you were the product as you were browsing social networks. But in Web 3.0, some believe that you will be the owner of your content, the stuff that you post online. Now this is kind of true, so if you want a post to stay up, it'll stay up, but if you want to take it down, they say in Web 3.0 you can control that. Because as we all know, usually when something is on the internet, it's always on the internet. Here's one example that's already real. Odyssey is a blockchain alternative to YouTube, where videos can be posted and creators can earn library tokens, which are basically a reward for enticing viewers to watch their videos. The thing about Odyssey, though, is that they can't really stop a video from being posted. If someone uploads it and someone else in the network wants to share it, they technically download that video and then let others watch that video and download it as well. Kind of like a big torrent network, if you know what that is. To expand on this, your post couldn't get taken down because your post wouldn't just be on one of Facebook's servers. It would theoretically be on thousands of computers around the world, ensuring that the blockchain social network you're on is not attacked or censored. Theoretically, this means there would be a lot of illegal and hateful things posted, but it would be...
This is the thing, and I know that people are going to have their opinions on this, but like, like things like Twitter, right? When you've got social media and platforms where people can post content, do you want it to be fully decentralized? And what I mean by that is like stuff like really nasty stuff, illegal, like hateful, like at the moment there's obviously content filters and there is like reviews and people get banned, suspended. Would you want to have a fully decentralized system where anyone could post absolutely anything they wanted, and then that could be shared across and distributed across the whole of the network? It's a tough one. Hey, how's it going? How's it going, man? It's a real tough one. It's a balance, isn't it? It comes down to governance. And a little bit like crypto, it's like, in terms of tokens and projects, like, do you really want the whole thing fully decentralized without any single person like driving and like manning the ship, essentially? Like, we know about people renouncing contracts. We know about DAOs and voting and things like that. But the actual innovation behind it, it's normally a small group of people or one person that's driving that innovation, right? So again, it's a balance. This whole thing about decentralization and centralization, for me, is a balancing act. You've got to have the right balance. I think that having a fully decentralized platform has big risks associated with it. I think that there's content that could be shared on it to all age groups, which I think, again, by the time that you had like a voting process, I don't even know if you could have a voting process to remove it, because it's there. It's like distributed across the whole, like a torrent, like you said, like a peer-to-peer thing. So it's really difficult. So yeah, the internet, it's a dangerous place, and information, there's a lot of like stuff that could easily fall through the net with a completely decentralized system like this, like he's explaining here.
In the name of freedom, of which the users of the networks could probably decide on a system to reduce that harmful content. But that's for another video. In Web 3.0, experts say that we will reach the point of the internet where every company is ran by a decentralized group called a DAO, which stands for Decentralized Autonomous Organization. And if you want to learn more about what those big words mean, we have an entire video on that topic and what they are used for. However, DAOs mean that there are no CEOs or presidents to impress. Those with the most tokens get to vote on how the company changes, not limited by a government or some family tradition. In Web 3.0, there will be no censorship of social networks like Facebook or Twitter. One controlling authority cannot shut it down. Lastly, one of the biggest things in Web 3.0 is that your digital identity is not 100% connected to your real-world identity. This means I can view pages, download things, make purchases, and any other activity on the internet without being traced to the real me. Now, there are many ways we can anonymize ourselves online, but bingo, I think that might be a future video idea. So hit the subscribe button if...
What do you guys think of that? Like, to be able to do, obviously, decentralized nature of anonymity. I can't even say the word. Being anonymous, shopping, downloading, browsing websites. I mean, it's quite a nice idea that you could essentially browse the internet without having any personal data being revealed. But interesting though when it comes to like shopping, like, because obviously they will need to collect some information from you in order to ship out items. So it'll be interesting to see what they mean by that. Like a digital identity, like a wallet address, as opposed to login information, username, password, email. How would that work? I mean, there's still questions really raised on that. And how would it be adopted as well as another one? I mean, I think one of the greatest things about this Web3 approach is it gives people choice on how they want to browse the internet and what information they want to provide on the internet. Like if there was an Amazon.com alternative that was Web3 and you log in via a wallet instead of a username, email, password combination with much less or no private information, then would people flock to that as opposed to use Amazon? I'm not so sure. Again, balance, hitting that balance. Do the wider public, are they demanding this right now? However, when it comes to things like social media platforms like Facebook collecting personal data, if there was a decentralized version of that where you logged in via a wallet, you could then have a much more secure and a much more personalized platform where you only share the information that you want to share. So it's interesting. It's very, very interesting. I mean, it's certainly an alternative to Web 2. How much interest is there out there from the general public for, complete anonymity? I can't even say the word. Anonymity. That's the word. Complete anonymity when browsing the internet. I mean, there are browsers out there right now that collect much less, if not no cookies. I'm thinking of Brave, for example. They are popular, but they're not like the most popular browsers out there. You would think that if people were always looking for the most secure, the most anonymous way of browsing the internet, they would look for the applications that provide them those solutions. Again, it will come down to lots of things like marketing, how it will be implemented. Obviously, not everybody will want to have not everybody out there will want to own a crypto wallet or of some description. So it's gonna take some time, and transition is going to be over many years. It's not going to be something that I think is going to come like a stampede straight away. I think you'll see adoption of crypto before you necessarily see adoption of Web3. That's how I see it.
If you're not already subscribed. Wrapping it up, these may be long-term ideas of those who think about Web 3.0. What Web 3.0 really means for us is that in the next decade, you might be able to buy Amazon gift cards using MetaMask and pay with Ethereum. Or
you can actually use, there's a website now. Oh, what's the name of it? Oh, I'm trying to remember the website. It's a website that basically mirrors Amazon, and it allows you to connect to Amazon, and it lets you pay in cryptocurrency. And they essentially, I can't remember the name. It's going to do my head in. If anyone knows the name of it, something IO. Bitter refill? What? What's Bitch refill? What's that? I want to know what the name of this website is. Like, it's gonna do my head in now. Like, I mean, just quickly like a let me quickly have a look. Could be Bitrefill. Yeah, Bitrefill is one of them. Something.io is another one. Is it purse.io? I want to say purse.io is what it's called. Yeah, this is it. This is another one. So this is purse.io. And again, this is a different way of doing it, of shopping on Amazon. And they fulfill orders. They have like this weird system where like they work on these coupons. So if you're willing to wait longer for your item to arrive, I mean, it's just an example, right? So you can buy the items on Purse, but it connects to Amazon, right? So let's just see if it connects on one of these items here, like this surge protecting power strip. This connects to Amazon, fulfills by Amazon. And when you kind of when you go to add to cart and check out, essentially you get options to extend your delivery timetable, and you get a reduced rate. You can see you save money on this as well, but you pay in crypto essentially. So how it works. So select your, yeah, here we go. You name your discount 2 to 4. Like you can kind of go in and it gives you a discount. I've not actually used it yet, so I can't actually say that. Yeah, but I've seen reviews of it, and the reviews are pretty good on Trustpilot. So things like this. This is an example of Web3 and crypto and how alternative methods. But I think with this, you sync with your real Amazon, because it's not fully Web3, but it's kind of like along the lines. You still sync with your normal Amazon account. But yeah, Bit refill is probably very similar. You can use your crypto to buy thousands of gift cards. Yeah.
Or that you could anonymously leave a like on one of your friends' posts using one of your hidden wallets. It's not going to be a bunch of life-changing stuff all at once. It'll likely be a series of ideas that grow together until centralized companies like Facebook and Google are disassembled by legislature, while decentralized, unregulated DAOs grow to replace them. I also want to talk a bit about the Web 3.0 Foundation. Now, there is a company called the Web3 Foundation that supports projects for increasing decentralization on the internet. Their 3 big projects are the blockchain Polkadot, Polkadot's test chain, and the Web3 Summit, which isn't a good overview of what Web 3.0 actually is. But they also offer some grants, which a lot of them have to do with supporting and using the Polkadot blockchain. So it seems to me the Polkadot team used the Web3 name as a brand to push their own agenda. But that's not what this channel is about. To give you an understanding of what I mean by this would be like the company Facebook buying a foundation for Web 2.0 and saying they are the ones who initiated it. Facebook is a company, while Web 2.0 is an idea. The same way that Polkadot is a blockchain and Web 3.0 is an idea. One doesn't own the other. I actually also watched another very interesting video called Why Web 3.0 is a Scam, where Trader University talks about how Solana is also taking advantage of the novelty of Web 3.0. I just want you guys to understand that Web 3.0 is a big concept that is a bunch of little ideas. Not one idea ran by a foundation to get you hyped up for the next step of the internet, or to buy their token. As we end this video, if you want to support the education of Web 3.0, consider subscribing to this channel and checking out our free decentralized...
So this is the thing, like when it comes to using AD apps, right? It's all Web3, because you connect to AD apps via your wallet to perform actions on your wallet, right? And to perform transactions on the blockchain. That's why it's Web3. But obviously when you're moving into things like, social media platforms, businesses, buying items, there's still a lot to be discussed over that, and privacy and identity, and it's an idea, like he says, it's an idea at the moment, this moment in time. There's another one he did where he's getting some frequently asked questions about
And here
Web3.
we explain topics of the cryptocurrency world using analogies, stories, and examples so that anyone can easily
I watch this guy because he is a great way of breaking it down in terms of illustrating it.
understand them. In this video, we're going to answer a bunch of Web3 questions that are frequently asked. So
Is anyone in the chat not following this, or maybe is any questions regarding Web3 before we continue? We're going to go through some questions now in this this FAQ on Whiteboard Crypto. But if there's anyone has any questions, feel free to ask them. I think a lot of people have got questions. I think that a lot of the answers haven't yet been revealed or haven't been realized yet. So,
such as, what will the future of Web3 look like? How is Web3 better than Web2? How much does a Web3 dev earn? And how hard is it to become one? So first off, what is Web3? In case you haven't seen our first video to 1 million views on this channel, let me explain Web3 in a few seconds. Web 3.0 uses the technology of cryptocurrency alongside the current protocols of Web 2.0. Now if that was too simple, basically Web3 integrates cryptographic keys to prove ownership of certain digital assets, like websites or game items or personal information that's shared on the internet.
NFTs.
Now the next question that usually comes up is people say, what's so bad about Web 2.0? Apart from centralization, Web 2.0 is actually really great, which is why we've used it for so long. In fact, what most people call Web 3.0 didn't actually start entering the public thought until around a year or two ago with the surge of other new technologies like crypto and DeFi. However, as many users are becoming educated on the downfalls of centralization, they see Web 3.0 as a solution to avoid big corporations dominating the world. The main concerns of Web 2.0 are that big data companies are constantly collecting and mining information about you, so much so that they may know more about you than you do. Even though this data is anonymized, if someone could connect this data to you, many people would be concerned. In fact, one of the big concepts of Web3 is online privacy and owning the information that you give to these big corporations. For example, when you use Google or Facebook, you're giving up all kinds of data that you may not even be thinking about, from the amount of time that you use an app to the location that you use it.
Like right now I'm on YouTube and I'm watching this video. All of this data is being fed back to Google and being stored on a database. Like what videos I watch, how long I watch them for, what type of topics the videos are about. Like lots of people don't think about that when they browse and watch videos online.
Your data may even be connected with other people around you and their accounts, basically associating you with them. Or maybe your account can be tagged with things that interest you, like camping or chess or maybe a pet that you own. Some of the technologies of Web3 are helping to reduce this, so that we have more privacy online. The next problem is, what problem is Web 3.0 solving? So, as I just said, the two problems that Web 3.0 is solving is mostly personal privacy and asset ownership. Now I'm going to cover both of these really quick. Basically, instead of being attached to an email address like theodore@whiteboardcrypto.com, I could instead be attached to a specific wallet address, or even a domain that points to a wallet address,
ENS,
from which all of my actions on the internet have to be confirmed by me. Nobody else could fake my transactions or social media posts.
Who here's got an ENS address? I've got one. I know TJ's got one.
Or share things or act as me unless they had my private key. Since it's really easy to create a private key and thus a new address, Web 3.0 allows people to create many different online identities very easily. And the goal is not to have one company like Google be able to track your every move. In all honesty, this topic probably deserves its own video. Now the
TJ's collecting the ENS addresses.
second part of the Web 3.0 revolution is asset ownership. So what if you could choose who you sold your private data to? Maybe you have a backlog of a bunch of search history. Well, normally Google would just take this data that you typed into Google and then sell it to advertisers without even asking you. What if you could instead sell it to companies that you wanted to and actually generate revenue from that, like $10 or a $50 a month payment?
That's pretty cool. It's a pretty cool idea. Selling your own data. How many of you guys would sell your own data to private centralized companies? But you could do that potentially in Web3.
For example, maybe you only wanted Chewy.com to see your browsing history, or maybe you only wanted Amazon.com to see your purchase history. Well, with Web 3.0, this could be possible. You could choose who you sell your data to and for how much. Another really interesting question is, will everything be Web3? There's a ton of hype around Web3 on things like Twitter. And the simple answer is, not everything's going to be Web3, and it shouldn't be Web3. So
ENS addresses are domain names that point to a wallet. Ethereum a name service, essentially. So you go to ENS, you look for a domain name, you purchase it with ETH, and that wallet address and that ENS name gets paired. That's how it works. And when you send crypto, you can accept crypto to your ENS, your name, your domain name, or receive it, send or receive to that name as opposed to your wallet. It's handy if you want to just give your wallet information out to someone to send or receive.
So one of our biggest problems in the world of crypto is people finding something cool and then going, oh my goodness, people are going to use this. In reality, nobody wants their coin or their token or their NFT, or even worse, nobody needs it. And since nobody needs it, what it is basically a solution to a problem that doesn't exist. Well, with Web3, it solves a specific problem. And a big part of that problem is ownership of web assets. Whenever you make a tweet, Twitter owns it. Whenever you share a link on Facebook, Meta owns it. Whenever you post a video on YouTube like this, Google technically owns it. Now, I know it's my content, I created it, but guess what? Google can choose to delete it. They can choose to show it to 1 billion people. And if they wanted to, and they do, choose to give me money so that I am incentivized to continue to make more videos, Google can do that. Even scarier, Google could take this video and change it. They could change what I say. Well, the technology of Web 3.0 makes it so that I truly own this piece of web content, not the publishing platform. And one of the ways that it does this is through the use of an immutable blockchain. But if I started talking about that...
I like that idea. I do like that idea. About having ownership over the content that you create. Like if you're a YouTuber or on Twitch or something, stream video games, like all that content is owned by the platform. They have the rights of it. So that's part of the deal you make when you sign up.
This video would get really technical really quickly. Another problem that Web3 solves is related to digital identity. Now, there is a very large part of the web that the ideas of privacy and asset ownership will not be wanted or needed, and because of this, they will not involve Web3. For example, I don't need to prove that I own a dog or who I am simply by using Google to view how much should I feed my dog. I mean, actually, if just browsing privacy is what we're after, we can actually reach a decent amount of web privacy without the Web 3.0 tools simply by using a web browser like Brave.
There we go. We're talking about Brave. So yeah, exactly. Like using Brave and other extensions, you can browse the Web 2 space pretty privately already. So, and Brave isn't the most commonly used browser out there, but it's becoming more and more popular. To have extensions or browsers that have that, reduction in tracking the amount of cookies that are collected and the data that's collected on you. So, solutions are existing already in Web 2 for browsing privately. So he makes a good point here. Like, not everything will be Web 3.
Wanted to get really technical, something like Tor. What it really comes down to is that in fact, most of the web traffic includes people searching for information, like what food to feed their dog, how much water is in a pool, or what a blockchain is. It's basic educational information, and the tools that Web3 offers don't really add any extra value to that experience. They're not solving a problem related to that. Think about it like this. Web3 will mostly be used for platforms and tools that you originally used an email address and password for. Instead of using those, you will now use a public and private key to sign and verify things. Things like banks, social media, email accounts. These are the specific places where Web3 will shine because there's a problem.
I love the idea of banks and social media accepting like a cryptographic key instead of an email address and password, and proof of identity that way. I think that would be pretty cool.
Is that these companies have your data and they're selling it, and that's what Web3 is intending to solve. But if you think about it, the companies out there that Web 3.0 works well with, the banks, social media, and email accounts, those companies don't want Web 3 because it'll take away their revenue sources. So think about it. Facebook is a company that wants profits, so it'll only integrate Web 3.0 if it makes the company more money. In reality, digital ownership usually refers to people owning their own data, which isn't exactly Facebook's track record. So they'll probably want to look like they're letting you own your own data without actually giving you control. Even more so, do you think Google wants to get rid of their billion-dollar advertising machine? Because Google's ad tracking and the online privacy of Web3 don't really mix well. So the answer to the question, will everything be Web3, is no. Only a few things will be Web3. And the things that will turn into Web3 applications will be fighting mega corporations.
Yeah, I mean, it's against their interest, right, to see a complete Web3 landscape. Like, it won't be not everything will be Web3 anyway, eventually. Like, but the more platforms that come through with Web3, sort of like with the ethos of having that basically keys, like as the actual like login ingredient to actually show who you are. Like, you don't actually have usernames, passwords, private information being shared around. Like Facebook, or Meta, I should say, Google, that's a big share of their money, right? The big share of their money is selling people's data. So the irony is that Meta, you know, with their goal of getting into the metaverse, how much of the metaverse will they want to be Web3?
Anyways, now that we're halfway through this video, I wanted to share with you a gift that I have for anyone getting started in Web3. But before I explain the free gift, let me explain Unstoppable Domains. Now, Unstoppable Domains is a project that's aiming to create domain addresses, but for your crypto wallets. So basically, instead of asking you to pay me some long address,
I was looking at making one of these. I was looking at this the other day. TJ, have you done this yet? Unstoppable Domain. This is another way. This is an alternative to Ethereum name service. It's very similar.
A whole bunch of letters. I can basically just say, hey, could you send me $10 to whiteboard.crypto? And then behind the scenes, it'll redirect that money into my wallet. I've actually made an entire video on them before, and I really like the product that they're offering. In fact, I think getting and setting up a Web3 domain is the easiest step to get started with Web3 technology. Now, I said that there was a gift, and here's the gift part. If you have a Web3 domain and you send it to me in an email, I'll simply reply with a welcome to Web.
Let's have a look at Unstoppable Domains. So this is where you can search your name. So I can search my name, and I can find one. So Jason Robinson is .blockchain. JasonRobinson.blockchain is available. That's the only one that's available. All the other ones are taken. But you can go here and like see some. And when like if I buy one of these domains, my crypto address essentially would be tied to this domain. It's very similar to ENS and the way the Ethereum name service
Web
works.
3.0 PDF that I've put together for someone like you. It includes a ton of other questions that I couldn't stick in this video, and you get pictures, guides, and a ton of information. So basically, to get that, if you've already have an Unstoppable domain, or even an ENS domain, you just have to email it to theodore@whiteboardcrypto.com. And if you don't have one, now's a great time to get one. There's a link in the description below where you can claim one. It's super easy to set up, and you can even pay with crypto. Recently, they've added free mints on the Polygon network.
So what domains, what chains are they working with? What chains are these guys on? Is it all EVM chains? Does anyone know? How do you send the crypto using your domain? Oh, here we go. With your Unstoppable domain, you can receive over 275 different cryptocurrencies instantly. But remember, each type of crypto has its own address. So make sure you've linked all of your crypto addresses to your domain before receiving any payments. Ah, here we go. So we've got a full list of supported crypto coins and tokens. It's quite a lot. Bitcoins there. Engine, Filecoin, HBAR. Yeah, pretty much a lot of them link. I mean, like a lot of the main ones are here. Luna. Yeah. Quantum, Rune. Yes. Oh, okay. It's interesting. Where's EverRise? Is EverRise on here? Where's EverRise? Rise. Not good enough.
I know this is kind of sounding like an ad, but there's a psychological part of owning a domain and taking the first simple steps to get started with Web3 that'll be useful to a ton of people. So I figured this little gift that I put together would be a great way to incentivize people to take their first step. Plus, I do earn a portion of every purchase made with the link in the description below. Moving on, let's get into the question, will Web3...
Oh, right, so he's got an affiliate link for Unstoppable Domains. That's
make me
why...
rich. So it is of my own personal opinion that Web3 is very similar to the .com boom, where new technology is being established, and right now there's a lot of silly things out there. Do I think my children will be staking their NFTs or logging into their fridge with a public key? Probably not. But do I think this is the beginning of a decade that will change a lot of how the internet works? Yes. So back to if Web3 will make you rich using statistics, it will probably not. However, if you're one of the very few developers who creates something that serves a lot of people and adds value to their life or makes them happy, it will be very likely that you'll be paid in proportion to the value that you create for them. In most cases, being early to Web3 won't make you rich. Owning your own data and selling it to another company probably won't bring you in $50 a month. It'll probably bring you in about $3. So if you want to get rich with Web3, you're going to have to put in a ton of work and thought behind it, because there are tons of people out there chasing the same money who may be smarter or harder working than you. Speaking of that, let's move on to talking about being a Web3 developer. So I get asked this question a lot. How hard is it to be a Web3 developer? The question is a really interesting one, and it's one that's really difficult to answer. So being a Web3 developer isn't really an easy or a hard question. It's more of on a spectrum. I mean, it's really hard to be a great 1% Web3 developer, but it's pretty easy to be an average Web3 developer. You just have to have a little bit of background in programming. The switch from regular programming to Web3 programming isn't difficult. It's just learning a few new ideas, concepts relevant. Well, include a steady income, and you get to continually improve specific numbers on what a web club. That club I mentioned earlier, which has a ton of
so now he's just talking about like different like apps and platforms that are on Web3.
Or you compare.
It'd be interesting to see like where we are come within the next 5 years. This is a good question. What will it take to move everyone to Web3?
Domain is a good first step of ownership in the Web3 space, although it's technically not required. As this technology evolves and it becomes clear how much better it solves certain problems, it will probably take time and an easier user interface to see mass adoption. I'm in the crypto space currently, so it's really easy to look around and see a ton of people using it. But when I look at my personal family and friends, quite a few of them have not even heard of DeFi, which is a core pillar of Web 3.0. So it's really difficult to answer this question with a specific date in mind. Anyways, as I end this video, I want to remind...
This is why I think like DeFi... I think DeFi comes first. I see more people adopting DeFi first before you see a wider adoption of the idea behind Web3. Like that's how I see it. It's going to take a bit of time, especially with people getting used to using their own keys and their own wallets. I mean, there are people right now that are staying on exchanges because they don't want to have the responsibility of having their own keys and having their own wallets. So until we make it less daunting, less, what's the word? Scary, I guess, is basically the same thing. For people to go and leave the safety or the perceived safety of a central exchange and move into DeFi, I think it's going to be slower than what we think. And then DeFi will gain traction, and then Web3 on the back of that will gain traction. That's how I see it happening. The revolution, as you would say. But yeah, that's pretty much...
I'm offering a Welcome to Web 3.0 PDF video. I'll get it. Thanks for watching this video.
Right, so that's pretty much Web3. So it's not like black and white. It's not like a list of things that are going to come. It's an idea of what Web3 would look like compared to Web 2.0. Much the same as what Web 2.0 was in comparison to Web 1.0, where data was two-way and information was passed back and forth. Now we're looking at ways you can actually take ownership of your information and data, decide what to do with it, and remain anonymous on areas of the internet that you're on right now. So there we go. If you've got any questions in the chat, because I think that pretty much ends the video and the presentation side of things. People would have to be responsible for their own keys when they can't remember passwords. There'll be a big learning curve on, and accountability, yeah. What happens if you lose your key? Like right now, if you lose your password, you can... Oh, I almost knocked that over. Right now, if you lose your password, you can just request a new one, right? You can just request a new logging, password, reset it. What happens if you lose your keys? We all know what happens if you lose your keys in DeFi. Big consequences. If you lose your keys in Web3, do you almost like instantly lose your ownership of all of your content and your data that you have? These are things that really only a certain centralized provision would be able to kind of mitigate against. So it's, again, comes back to what I said about balance. Where do you balance everything? Centralized, decentralized. Like decentralized, centralized, trying to find that balance in the middle where you've kind of got best of both worlds, I think is the logical way forward. Not everything needs to be Web3. Certain things can be advantage. You can have certain things will benefit with Web3, for definite. Certainly, like when it comes to DeFi and DApps and things like and navigating through your own personal finance. But when it comes to Amazon shopping on the internet for other products, YouTube, how many people are comfortable with Google or Facebook or Twitch paying them a revenue for publishing their content on their platforms? All of a sudden, what's the appetite for people having ownership of their own content? Right now, probably not as great as you think it would be. It would take years to build these sort of systems that could potentially one day rival the status quo. So there's a lot of building to be done. It's like early stages, really, really early stages. The idea is noble. The cause is good. Just needs time, I guess, to evolve and come to fruition. And that is what Web3 is an idea. Lots of ideas that are yet to be... People are building these ideas. I've heard of like projects that are trying to build decentralized Twitters and a decentralized version of YouTube. But again, it's all about what marketing can they do to bring that wider adoption on board. It's all very well having a decentralized platform where you can own your own content, but if you haven't got people watching that content, you haven't got lots of people coming over to that platform and using it, what use is it? What use is it of having that benefit of owning your own content if you're just not getting any revenue from it? What use of it? What use is it of having your own personal information that you could choose to sell to a platform, but there's no platforms looking to buy it? So it's going to be a slow process, guys. So let's see how it goes. Losing keys is like losing cash on the NY subway. But yeah, losing keys is like that. But this is more than just cash. Like right now, yes, losing keys is like losing your money. But losing keys in the future in Web3 could have much bigger consequences. It's losing rights to things. So food for thought. And thank you for tuning in, guys. I appreciate it. And I look forward to next week. And see you tomorrow in the spaces. Have a good one. All the best.